CBS Sports HQ Football Happy Hour here. I am here to give Seahawks fans a bit of good luck. Brady Quinn's here with me on set. So Brady, I wonder what you think about this. Bengals were 75-1 to win the AFC last season. They went ahead and did that. Same odds as the Seahawks have to go ahead and win the NFC this season. Only you got to be really, really, really optimistic about that. And it all begins with the quarterback battle here. Amanda Guerra, Brady Quinn, who did spend some time with the Seahawks. Let's talk about this quarterback battle. What do you foresee happening?
It's tough to tell at this moment because at this point in time in the training camp, you usually have announced who your starter is going to be. You do that for a few reasons. One, you like to give clarity to the rest of your team who's going to be the guy. But in this case, I think we've got a battle that is one of three things. Either it's so close, we haven't been able to determine who that's going to be, or because of Drew Lock dealing with COVID and not being able to play the same amount of reps as Geno Smith has, they want to give him a shot and they're hoping he will eventually do it. Or the Seahawks are just waiting on Jimmy G to get released because they feel like he would be a better option than both Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and I wouldn't blame him if that was the case. The problem is you're getting a Jimmy G who'd be coming in there, not knowing his offensive system with Shane Waldron calling the plays, and not having any chemistry with the guys he's throwing to. So no matter how you cut it up, that doesn't spell for a successful season for the Seattle Seahawks, given their current scenario at the quarterback spot.
Pete Carroll has said Geno Smith has been the guy the entire time, but he is wide open to possibilities. So we'll see what those possibilities entail.
Well, then if he's the guy the entire time, how's their quarterback competition?
You know, I don't make the rules here.
That's what I'm saying. He hasn't been the guy the entire time. There's a reason why they haven't announced it yet. If he is, they would have announced it by now.
So let's talk about a bright spot with the Seahawks. Let's talk about DK Metcalf here. Actually wants to play. Got a little peeved at Pete Prisco. Oh my gosh, Pete Carroll for pulling him out of the preseason game this past weekend. Let's do a prop on him. Over under 925.5 receiving yards. Last season had 967. Yep. Are you taking the over under here?
Oh, definitely taking the over. He's gone over this number the past two seasons. He would have gone over his rookie season had he started all 16 games. He didn't get started one of those games. So he will go over this number. Look, the passing game runs through DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett's a great compliment to Metcalf, but Metcalf is now taken over as the number one wide receiver. And whether it's Geno Smith, Drew Lock, or whoever else be starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, he's always going to be at least one or two in every one of your reads. So there's no doubt in my mind with 17 games, I think books are still adjusting to this. Some of these over-under props, you're going to see more overs hit, in my opinion, moving forward. I think this number is really low, and it's the expectation that Pete Carroll's going to want to get back to, hey, let's run the football. Let's play solid, sound defense. That's not this roster. That's not this team right now. You got to find a way of creating some big plays, and DK Metcalf is the guy to go to for it.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about Seattle's defense. Worst defensive season under Pete Carroll since he's been there. This season, new coordinator, new scheme, a couple key new players here. Better, worse, the same?
I think they'll be better. They should be improved. I mean, it's hard to be much worse than they were, at least the way they started off last season. Their pass coverage was atrocious, and in part because they don't have much of a pass rush. You go look at the last 2-3 years, really they've been the bottom half of the league in sacks and pressures. They do have some young players who are looking at getting up in that group, but if you go back to last year looking at sacks, whether it's Carlos Dunlap or Rasheem Green, those the guys aren't there right now. So the reality is you're looking at a roster that's devoid of that guy that you have to game plan around coming off of the edge. Now, you might say Taylor's that guy, but I don't know that he's quite there yet to get the respect from offensive play callers and other offenses to scheme up to take him out or eliminate him. They're having a hard time covering on the back end, and it's just they're a shell of themselves. This is nothing close to what it was when Seattle had that run of back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and winning one with the Legion of Boom. And I think Pete Carroll would like to get back to that, but they've had their misses in the draft, and they've had guys who've decided to basically move on, that they just didn't really fit what they're trying to accomplish.
Pete Carroll's going to be 71 in September. Knowing what you know about him, the type of person he is, are we looking at retirement in the near future? Does it maybe hinge on how the Seahawks perform over the next couple of seasons?
No, I don't think so. I think when you look at where Seattle's at now, it was probably similar to where Seattle was at when Pete Carroll first took the job. Like if you'll recall, they went 7-9 his first 2 years in 2010, 2011. And I think they were trying to get the roster right. They were trying to kind of get a fit for really what they were looking to do. And after those 2 years, one of which they actually ended up winning the division, going to the playoffs, but after those 2 years, they knew the missing piece was just Russell Wilson. They find him in the draft. He ends up being lightning in a bottle, and the rest is history. They've got the defense around a rushing attack and a quarterback who was clutch and could extend the game and make plays, and that led to a Super Bowl. They don't have that right now at the quarterback spot, but they surely don't have that on defense either, and I don't necessarily know that they have it in the backfield. I mean, Kenneth Walker may not be healthy for their Week 1 matchup, so a lot of concerns right now, I think, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan.
So let's look at the win total here. They went 7-10 last season. Their win total set at 6. Are we optimistic? Pessimistic here?
No, pessimistic.
I'm trying to find some optimism. There's just not a lot right now.
It's tough. I think the optimism will probably come from looking at getting this roster set for the 2023 season. And most likely, if things go how I think they're going to go, they'll be set up to take one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft. They're not going to wait till the 3rd round to take a guy like Russell Wilson. But as you comb through this schedule, maybe we get a surprise Week 1. Maybe we see a game, win there. But outside of the Falcons, maybe at Detroit, you go down the line, Week 8 versus the Giants. Keep combing through. Maybe the Panthers, you got them coming across the country at home. The Jets in Week 17. I mean, those are the games you're looking at, say they're winnable games for how they stack up. But the reality is, what was that, 5 games I just named?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the under at best I think they push. I would be surprised if they went over the number of 6 wins.
And of course, all the way up there, you see that almost 30,000 miles in travel there. Bold prediction? Got one for the Seahawks? And it could be good or bad.
Jimmy G is going to be the starting quarterback at some point in time for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, that's a bold prediction for you. I think that's one of the reasons why you've maybe seen the Seattle Seahawks, pull back from wanting to announce who the guy is going to be, because if Jimmy Garoppolo becomes a free agent, and it's more likely that he's going to be, I don't think San Francisco wants to pay him as much money as his contract states to be a backup behind Trey Lance, then this would be the guy you go get. He'd be the best option of the 3 quarterbacks you'd have. You just have to get him up to speed. And so that's the only concern that you have, but he knows the division well. He's taken a team at least to the conference championship game, if not further, the only 2 seasons he's remained healthy. And I think he'd fit in Shane Waldron's system. So that would be the bold prediction, is Jimmy Garoppolo becomes a free agent, and this late into the season, you're not looking at Carolina anymore. Maybe you could say the Cleveland Browns would make a move, even though it seems like they're set with Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs as their backups until Deshaun Watson comes back. So there you have it. It's probably Seattle, maybe Atlanta, but they seem comfortable with Marcus Mariota. So that would be the bold predictions, that Jimmy Garoppolo ends up then getting to face the San Francisco 49ers a couple of times in what could be a fun rematch.
Let's look at Week 1. The NFL knows what everybody wants. We get Broncos at Seattle for Week 1 there. You mentioned earlier, it's interesting that maybe we could look at an upset here. Russell Wilson back in his old stadium the first time. Broncos favored by 6 on the road. The total, I think it's 41 and a hook. What do you think about that?
Look, crazy things happen in the NFL Week 1. So there's no doubt that Seattle at home is a tough team to beat. I mean, the fact that the Broncos are giving 6 points as a road favorite here is shocking to me. That's why I'm actually on the side of Seattle. I don't think they win this game, but I think they keep it close at home. This is going to be more of a low-scoring game. I think you're going to see Denver go through some kinks as Nathaniel Hackett takes over and he's trying to implement an offense, and Russell Wilson's got to get his feet set underneath him. So I think it's going to take some time before this offense starts clicking. And if you're Seattle and you watch what you've seen in preseason so far, I mean, look, Denver's not a very physical team, unless it's just because their starters haven't been in there and we're missing something, but they're getting pushed around the field. I would try to go to the old school game plan, run the football, play style defense, see if you can get Russell to turn the football over here and there. And Pete Carroll knows, Russell's weaknesses as good as anyone else. So, look, there's a shot Seattle could pull off an upset, but I at least like this game being tight. I think it's a low-scoring game.
Do you consider this a revenge game? And what is going to be the reception for Russell Wilson?
I think it's going to be a big reception.
Right?
I mean, look, he's
I
the most prolific passer in the Seahawks history.
A lot of love.
He brought him a Super Bowl. He brought him 2 NFC championships. I don't think there's going to be – it's not a revenge game.
Right.
It's more of an appreciation more than anything else. But, look, the Seattle's in a different spot now, and obviously Russell's moved on. He's trying to win a Super Bowl in Denver.
That is not a revenge game. One that is one you're going to see Week 1 on CBS there. So let's take a look at the schedule. Brady Quinn, thank you so much. So the NFL returning to CBS, and yes, something you can call a revenge game. Browns at Panthers. Baker Mayfield trying to get his revenge on his old team. It all returns September